thank you, all of you, for being here tonight. And without further ado, let's come together. Bruchim habayim b'shem Adonai, barachnuchem mibeit Adonai. Blessed are you all who come in the name of God. We bless you from the house of God. A couple months ago, I was doing a temple scavenger hunt with our new class of students. The first clue was, the first room you'll go is where someone would stay if that was the place they were going to pray. The kids found this room, but when I asked them if they've ever been in a sanctuary before, they didn't know what a sanctuary is. I asked them if they knew what a bird sanctuary is, and a sweet boy named Mason said, "A bird sanctuary is where birds can fly free, without fear of being hurt." How poignant you were, Mason. Welcome to our sanctuary. May it be a sanctuary for you as well, where you can fly freely, in prayer and in community, without fear of being hurt. I'm Rabbi Greg Hirsch, the rabbi here at Temple Emmanuel of Wakefield. It's with a full and heavy heart that I welcome all of you tonight to our Solidarity Shabbat. Paul? Representative Brodeur? Welcome. Very nice. It's with a heavy but full heart that I welcome all of you tonight to our Solidarity Shabbat. We gather, of course, in response to the massacre in Pittsburgh. A week ago, I was teaching about how in our Torah portion, Abraham, a father of all three Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, was the model of Hachnasat Orchim, of welcoming the stranger. At Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, they never got to discussing the Torah portion because anti-Semitism, embodied by a man with an agenda, an assault rifle, and 3 handguns, took 11 precious souls. Tonight, as we mourn the loss of life, and as we encounter in real time our own vulnerability, we will pray and sing together. We will say tonight, not in Wakefield, not here, not in our town, not in Massachusetts, and not in this country. The central prayer of Jewish liturgy comes from our shared text of Deuteronomy. Chapter 6, verse 4 reads, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. The Lord, Adonai, all of divinity is one. Divinity is captured in oneness. The oneness enables God to be present in all creation. There's a custom that when we sing this line, we cover our eyes and we emphasize the last letter, reciting it, Echad. We focus in with all we have on that oneness. Tonight, all of us are one. If God is one, may we be one. And may our community join together as one against baseless hatred. And in that, may God be found. Everyone we'll be hearing from tonight made the list because they reached out to me and Temple Emmanuel in the immediate aftermath of the massacre at Tree of Life Synagogue. They offered words of comfort and support and offered to help in whatever capacity they could. The people we'll hear from tonight are consistently working to help all residents of Wakefield, and tonight is just another example. Representative Brodeur, Superintendent Lyons, Town Administrator Steve Mayo, Police Chief Smith, Town Council members, fellow members of the clergy, congregants, parishioners from Wakefield and beyond, and members of the community at large. On behalf of our Temple President, Evan Pressman, thank you for your presence and welcome to Temple Emmanuel of Wakefield. Emmanuel means God is with us. I hope we all experience sanctuary, oneness, and divinity in our time together this evening. We'll begin with a familiar tune, Shalom Chaverim, which means hello and peace to friends. We'll sing the first verse in Hebrew, then repeating it, singing Shalom, my friends. Shalom Chaverim, Shalom Chaverim, Shalom, Shalom. Shalom Chaverim, Shalom Chaverim, Shalom, Shalom. Shalom, my friends, Shalom, my friends, Shalom, 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 my friends. Shalom, my friends. Shalom, shalom. I'd now like to invite Reverend Norm Bendroth, pastor of First Baptist Church, to offer the invocation.
Let us pray together. Holy One, Tree of Life, eternal source of blessings, we come before you this evening as children of Abraham and Sarah, with sorrow crushing our hearts, bereaved beyond belief, yet united in our love, and returning to you in faith. We come to express our rage at the slaughter of innocents at the Tree of Life Synagogue, and to express our solidarity with our Jewish friends and neighbors and all who suffer because of senseless violence. We gather tonight thanking you for the survivors and for the first responders, and asking for what comfort they may find for grieving families. Tree of Life, our rock and redeemer, enliven this evening with healing, enliven this evening with hope. O sovereign God, let your love, justice, and peace flow in the days ahead, and when this service is ended, let us not simply return to our daily routines, but with determination to be harbingers of hope and opponents of hate, bigotry, ignorance, and intolerance wherever we may find them. In your holy name, amen.
Amen. It's a Jewish custom to light memorial candles for the deceased. In this way, we acknowledge that even though they're no longer with us, their light continues to shine in this world. The Wakefield Clergy Association and Wakefield Town Council will share the honor of lighting memorial candles for the 11 Jewish martyrs. First, I'll announce the names of our honored guests, and as they're lighting the candles, I'll announce the names of those we are remembering tonight. So from our Clergy Association, I invite up Reverend Matthew Cadwell, Reverend Glenn Mortimer, Reverend Bruce Taylor, Reverend Norm Bendroth, and Reverend Nancy Rodman from Central Congregational in Linfield. The first candle is for Dr. Jerry Rabinowitz, age 66. Second candle is for Rose Mallinger, age 97. Cecil Rosenthal, 59. David Rosenthal, 54. Richard Gottfried, 65. For the next candles, I invite our town councilors, Ann Santos, Tony Longo, Marion Butt, Julie Galvin, Peter May. Paul Dinoco and Ed Dombrowski wanted to be with us tonight, but they are away. So the next name is David Stein, 71. Joyce Feinberg, 75. Melvin Wax, 88. Irving Younger, 69. Bernice and Sylvan Simon, ages 84 and 86. Thank you to our town councilors, and thank you to our Clergy Association for being here in solidarity and support. Now it's time to sing. This is a song, dare I say, that I might be the only person in this room who knows it, but we're gonna sing it a couple times. So this is not a solo, this is not a performance. I want you to learn it with me, sing it with me. The words are in your booklets, Olam Chesed Yibaneh. Those three words literally mean a world of loving kindness will be built. And the song describes how it will be built. Olam chesed yibaneh, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. 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 English. I will build this world from love. Yalalai, lai, lai, la, la, lai, lai. And you must build this world from love. Yalalai, lai, lai, la, la, lai, lai. And if we build this world from love, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai, then God will build this world from love. Yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. Let's sing it one more time. Olam chesed yibaneh, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yalalai, lai, lai, la, la, lai, lai. Olam chesed yibaneh, yalalai, lai, lai, la, la, lai, lai. I will build this world from love. Yalalai, lai, lai, la, la, lai, lai. And you must build this world from love. Yalalai, lai, lai, la, la, lai, lai. And if we build this world from love, yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai, then God will build this world from love. Yalalai, lai, lai, yalalai, lai. Our first speaker tonight is Rick Jacobs, District Director for Congressman Seth Moulton.
Good evening. Rabbi, thank you. Seth asked me to come tonight to say a few words on his behalf, which is a duty that falls to me quite frequently. But when I heard him speak at Temple Sinai on Sunday, this felt a little different. He talked about growing up in Marblehead, Massachusetts, and he talked about how some of his friends went to Old North Church. Some went to Temple Emmanuel, some went to Star of the Sea, and nobody thought any different of it. And it wasn't until he was in his 20s that he sort of heard his first anti-Semitic slur, and he said it didn't even register with him at first. In fact, it was quite a ways afterwards that he realized what would happen, and he had this rush of emotion and understood how sheltered of a life he had lived in Marblehead and what a gift that had been. And how important it was for us to try and grow and cultivate that feeling across all of our communities. And as he told this story, it was deeply personal to him, and I realized there was no way that I could do it justice. And so, if you'll indulge me, and if I can ask your forgiveness, I'd like to say just a few words of my own that I think capture the spirit of what he was saying. I am not Jewish, but my wife Rachel is. Our two children, Phineas and Atticus, are. We're congregants of Temple Emmanuel in Marblehead. So my wife says that makes me Jewish, which I agree. But I think this week, honestly, we all should feel a little Jewish, because I think all of us are mourning for the 11 lives that were lost in Pittsburgh. All of us are wondering what's happening in this world. All of us are questioning what it means when we can't go to our own houses of worship, our schools. We can't send our friends and family and our children off without worrying whether they might come back. And it's a difficult time. My wife and I, Rachel, we met doing a year of service for an organization called City Year. City Year had these things called founding stories. They were wisdom collected from different cultures, different thinkers throughout time that were meant to help us guide our year of service. And I look back on those from time to time to provide guidance to me. And there's one for the last year and a half I've kept coming back to. In times like this, when I have trouble wrapping my brain around some of the hatred and divisiveness and anger we've been seeing. And it's incredibly appropriate for this moment because it comes from the Talmud. And if you'll indulge me, I'd like to just share that story very briefly. It was dusk on the bank of a river that curved from the sea to the mountain. There, perched in the deep bend of a branch of an oak tree, sat a rabbi, and at his feet were students from nations near and far. As the evening slowly reached up from the horizon and spread across the vast expanse of the sky, the rabbi and his students spoke of the great issues of the day. As they did each night, they spoke of issues of the heart, of humanity, and of hope. The rabbi peered into the distance and turned to his students to ask, "Tell me, if you can, how we will know when the night is over and the day has begun." The students sat back for a minute and gazed at the horizon and witnessed the deep blue of evening beginning to blend with the golden canvas of sunset, and they knew that the rabbi spoke neither of timetables nor of the earth's rotation on its axis. No, the rabbi spoke of larger things. After regarding the question for a while, one of the students raised his hand and said, "Rabbi, we will know that the night is over and the day has begun when we can see the difference between a goat and a lamb." The rabbi paused and said, "No, that is a good answer, but I don't think that is it." Soon another student offered her hand and said, "Rabbi, I think the night is over and the day has begun when we can see the difference between a fig tree and an olive tree." The rabbi shook his head again and said, "No, you've made a thoughtful effort, but that is not it either." The students seemed confused and were a bit discouraged. Quietly, they gazed upwards where the scattered stars and full moon replaced the sun and brightened the deep dark of the endless sky. After a moment, a soft voice could be heard from the bank closest to the river. It came from one of the rabbi's most reluctant students. Shy and somewhat hesitant, she said, "Rabbi, I think we will know that the night is over and the day has begun when we can see a rich man and a poor man and hear them say, 'He is my brother.'" The student continued, her voice growing stronger. "When we see a black woman and a white woman and hear them say, 'She is my sister.' It will be then that we know that the night is over and the day has begun." The rabbi nodded his head, pleased with the wisdom of his student, and said, "That is correct." And I turn to this because in times when it seems like we're at our darkest, and increasingly that seems like nearly every day, a darkness that certainly I haven't seen in my lifetime. And so how do we counteract that? We counteract that with acts of light. Thousands, hundreds, millions of acts of compassion, of forgiveness, of brotherhood and sisterhood. And only with those will we truly turn night into day. Thank you very much.
Now remarks from Representative Paul Brodeur.
Phineas will not be joining us at the podium. Well, Rabbi, you've packed the house, and that's such a great thing. And Rick, thank you for your remarks. It is I have the pleasure of working with Rick on behalf of the community. He and his wife apparently met at City Year, which is terrific. My wife and I met defending an insurance company against a market conduct claim, similarly inspiring, no doubt. But we each try to contribute in our own way. For those of you who know, I'm one of the state representatives for Wakefield, and I get to speak a lot. And usually, I'm not nervous, but these are the hardest things to deal with and to speak of. And so, I endeavor to do my best, and I appreciate your indulgence. So I had the opportunity to speak at another temple earlier this week, I think it was, and I spoke a little bit about the opportunity I had to visit a place called Yad Vashem. And Yad Vashem is a place in Jerusalem. It is essentially it's a museum. It's a Holocaust Remembrance Center. And it is, as I said to the folks a couple of days ago, it's the saddest place I've ever been in my life, because the way it's designed, you kind of start at the beginning and it winds you all the way through, so you can't skip. It's not like, you can go to the Louvre and just see the Mona Lisa and get out and miss kind of the bigger picture. So they take you through, and that is absolutely heart-wrenching. But then they have a separate memorial for the children. And if you ever go there, and I almost would say don't go there, it is so sad, and it leaves you with a pit in your stomach and a sense that history has really been hard. But you like to think, the way you kind of get through it is you like to think that it's history, and we've moved on, and apparently not. Apparently that has come to us. But what I didn't talk about, and was a different trip. I took a trip to Germany, and I had an opportunity to tour Dachau, the concentration camp outside of Munich. And in a way, that was worse, because I don't know if any of y'all have ever been to that place, but the saddest thing about that place is as it was then and is now, it's in the middle of an ordinary suburb. It could be across the street from here. And it was part of the day-to-day life of that city and that region, and it was the reality of what was going on in Germany with the consent of the populace. And that is tragic. And you hope, you like to think, not here. But it's here. And so, what do? I don't know. Quite frankly, I think to myself, this is my first time visiting here, and it occurs to me that that's probably not the best thing, that I probably should have been here once or twice before. Not for any particular reason, not because of a tragedy, but because it's something I don't know all that much about. I was raised Catholic, still practicing. And the best way we can be our best selves is to explore those differences. They're not really differences, they're really different ways of approach. And as we've kind of gone through history and we've tried to become a better people, a better country, for a long time we've talked about tolerance. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm kind of sick of that word, because tolerance doesn't mean acceptance, really. It means a begrudging recognition that might be something that's going on. I don't have to like it, I don't have to deal with it. But better than the alternative. We need to, and I think part of what this event is tonight, is about embracing diversity, embracing the richness of a community that recognizes we are greater than the sum of our parts. If we can do that, we'll be in a better place, but we haven't done it yet. I don't know about y'all, But I'm kind of tired because kind of my job is to think about this stuff. And starting a couple years ago, it's gotten harder and harder and harder every day. You dread the idea of watching the news, turning on social media, worry about even talking to your relatives for fear of those cherished relationships going awry. And it's hard. And I'm tired, and I bet you all are tired too. Reverend Norm, I know you're tired. I know you're tired. In the last couple of weeks, I've been to services about Pittsburgh. I've been to a candle lighting around domestic violence. I had the hopeful joy of the service this community put on to recognize the value of the First Baptist Church and to recognize that while the building is gone, the institution, the congregation will remain and grow and thrive. And so I am tired, and I suspect a lot of you are tired, but I hope from this service and from your relationships with each other, you'll wake up tomorrow, you'll put 2 feet on the ground, you'll hug your kids, your spouse, whatever the case may be. You'll recognize the truth of our beliefs, that this was not an act of some vague sense of anti-religiousness. It was not. It was an act of anti-Semitism. It needs to be called out for exactly what it is, because the truth matters. Words matter. When the civil rights fights of the 50s were not about water fountains or counters, lunch counters. They were about power, and they were about people trying to shut out other people that are just trying to live their lives. There's a question on the ballot right now that I think is the same thing. Different situation, different people, same idea. It's not about bathrooms. It's not about locker rooms. It's about equality and fairness and getting along. So we've had a rough couple of weeks in the course of a rough couple of years. But thank you, because we all need to draw strength from each other. And as hard as these days have been, it is really hopeful that there is a diverse, packed house. And Rabbi, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. And we all grieve together for the loss of the folks in Pittsburgh. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative. Our next speaker will be Reverend Matthew Cadwell, the chair of the Wakefield Interfaith Clergy Association and the pastor from Emmanuel Episcopal.
Friends, it's an honor and a privilege to be with you here tonight on what I think is a special and sacred and holy evening as we remember and as we pray and as we support one another in our grief and in our shock and also in our love and in our resolve. That so many of us are here tonight from our diverse backgrounds, from a multiplicity of religious perspectives and political affiliations, proves, I think, that what unites us, our common faith in a God who created and loves each one of us, and our respect and even our love for the wondrous diversity in our midst, and our hope for a future less divided, they all are a bright light, shining in a world that some days, especially like last Saturday, can seem especially dark indeed. The world, the nation, and our town need this light. The light that God shines on the world through us together. So as Representative Broder mentioned a week ago, many of us here tonight were gathered at the other Emmanuel in town my Emmanuel, to support each other following the devastating loss of the First Baptist Church building. And as horrific as that fire was, and it was, standing there watching helplessly with Norm and with Glenn, and as much as that fire leaves a massive crater in the center of Wakefield, we can be relieved that no one was seriously injured, and that thanks to the police and the fire department, that catastrophe was contained to just the church. Our brothers and sisters at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh can't say the same. Their loss took beloved family and friends, people who were fun and funny, who were passionate and faithful, people who were lovers of God and lovers of God's people. And those beautiful, unique, wonderful individuals can never be replaced, and neither should they be forgotten. As it happens, today is a day that in Christian churches is often called the Feast of All Souls, when we remember and pray for those who have died and who now live in the fullness of God's embrace. The 11 faithful Jewish martyrs killed on Saturday are surely among those souls, living at the center of God's heart. And from there, from God's heart, I believe that they are urging us to be people of faith, to be people of love for each other. And I know that because that's exactly how they lived their own lives. In reading their stories, I was so deeply moved to learn about all of them, but I'll share a couple details about a few of them. So first, there were those brothers, Cecil and David. They sat at the back of the Tree of Life and welcomed visitors. They were like ambassadors, friends said. Dr. Jerry Rabinowitz was a family physician who, in the 1980s, was unafraid to treat gay men who had contracted HIV. When others wouldn't touch them, including their own families, Dr. Rabinowitz cared for them and showed them love and compassion. One former patient said that Dr. Rabinowitz was known to hold patients' hands without gloves and to embrace them when they left his office. Marvin Wax loved his grandson, his religion, and the Pittsburgh Pirates. And he was always full of jokes. He was 87 and always the first to arrive for Friday evening and Saturday morning Sabbath services. Friends kidded him that he should have been a rabbi. Rose Mallinger, the oldest of the 11, was 97 and loved her family. She was the epitome of a grandmother and great-grandmother, and even at 97, she still cooked feasts for the high holy days. That's just stories of 5 out of 11. Together, from the other side of eternity, they teach us how to live. In my sermon on Sunday, which of course was the day after the shooting and in the week after the fire at the Baptist church, I remarked that God doesn't give us buildings, however majestic they may be. Those are the work of our hands. and our imaginations. But God does give us each other, friends and family, neighbors of different colors and traditions and backgrounds, Jewish and Christian and Muslim, Buddhist, gay and straight, Democrats and Republicans. God gives us each other to love, to heal, and to care for. God gives us each other to hold, to dry each other's tears, and to make us whole again. We can be that for each other now, right here in this town. This is our time. And so may God bless you. May God bless us all as we love one another. Shabbat Shalom, and may their memory be a blessing.
Thank you, Reverend. Our next speaker will be Superintendent Doug Lyons.
Good evening. I want to thank my friend Rabbi Hirsch for the invitation to be here this evening. In my new role as superintendent, we've had the good fortune and opportunity to collaborate, and I've joked with him that I think it's the first time that a Catholic has ever made confession to a rabbi. I'm very pleased and honored to think of him as a colleague and a friend, so thank you. We need this tonight. We need to be here for one another, and I'm glad that you created this opportunity for us to be here. I'm grateful to be part of such an esteemed group as well. In preparation for this evening, the rabbi suggested if I could share some of the work that we're doing in our schools to prevent acts of hate. He and I recently discussed the increase in anti-Semitic graffiti happening in schools throughout the state. I shared with the rabbi that we are learning that with all of the programs that we have, we're learning that the single greatest protective factor that we have in keeping students safe, in keeping our schools safe, and in helping our students make good decisions are the relationships that we have with each and every individual student. Our focus is on keeping students close and working to understand what they are thinking and feeling. This gives us the insight and the information to guide and best teach. We have also found that given students voice and opportunity through our programs, through our World of Difference programs and Diversity Leaders programs, that we've empowered students to recognize small acts of aggression, acts that are unkind, acts that can sometimes escalate to aggressive and violent behavior. Students recognize prejudice and hate in all of their forms. Through these opportunities, students have been able to respond and seek the guidance and support of teachers and administrators to address the behaviors that they feel make our communities unsafe. We're challenged in this very trying time. We're challenged by the fact that students and our community members are connected to technology and information more now than ever before in the history of time. And yet, our members of our community are really so remarkably isolated, lonely, unconnected to family, community, and faith. It's quite concerning at times. There are no easy answers to address acts of hate. This is just one thing and one way that we're working to promote the behaviors we most want to see in our students. We want to promote a culture of love and care in our school communities, And we give that to our students, and teachers give that to their students every day. And I'm very pleased to be part of our school system. I'm heartbroken for the families in Pittsburgh. But I am heartened by the adult relationships that we have in the leadership of this community. We stand in solidarity with the families of La Simcha congregation, and we will keep them in our thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
As a fellow member of the Wakefield Human Rights Commission, I'll be reading Maria Muti's remarks in her absence. Dear Temple Emmanuel and congregants, friends, and neighbors, my name is Maria Muti, and I'm the secretary of the Wakefield Human Rights Commission. I'm sorry I can't be with you tonight because the tragedy in Pittsburgh has remained in the forefront of my mind since the day it happened, and there's a certain comfort in being able to grieve collectively. This is very personal to me, as I was a college student in Pittsburgh, only a few blocks from Squirrel Hill, and one of the victims was the wife of my college professor. There have been moments when my anger threatens to consume me, something that I'm sure many of you feel as well. But then I think of how the victims lived their lives, and I believe there's no better way to both honor their memories and drown out the perpetrator's hatred than to continue their service. Like Dr. Rabinowitz, we reach out to the sick. Like Rose Mallinger, we cherish our families. Like Bernice and Sylvan Simon, we celebrate community. And like David and Cecil Rosenthal, we offer kindness in the form of a smile and a handshake. Tonight, we link our arms together to drive out the darkness of hatred and intolerance and bring the peace and light of those who died to move us forward. With peace, Maria Muti. I'd now like to invite our temple president, Evan Pressman, to lead a responsive reading of the poem Tree of Life on the back cover of your booklets.
Tree of life, revive our souls, enrich our days, entreating your blessings, O God of peace, fill our hearts with comfort, letting your Torah shine in the fullness of our love. Faith in you, our God, eternal source of blessings. Praying for healing in the depths of despair, thanking God for the survivors, thanking God for the first responders, sorrow crushing our hearts, bereaved beyond belief, united in our love, returning to you in faith, God of Israel, healer of generations. Tree of life, Redeemer of Israel, enliven this moment with healing, enliven this moment with hope. O Rock of Israel, forget not the Jews of Pittsburgh. Let your love flow in the days ahead for justice and peace everlasting. Amen.
I now invite Reverend Bruce Taylor from the Unitarian Universalist Church. He'll be reading with you all Psalm 23 in your other booklets.
Let us join together and say these words of the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Thank you, Reverend. Mourner's Kaddish, which you can find on the back of this booklet, is the prayer that Jewish people recite to honor the deceased. The prayer recognizes the void that is left by the deceased and asks of God to fill that void with holiness. It's written in Aramaic and was formulated around the time of Jesus. I invite everyone to stand together as mourners and to recite Kaddish. Please rise in body or spirit. Yitkadal ve'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divra chirutei ve'amlich malchutei, b'chaye echon u'biyom echon u'b'chaye techol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'bizman kariv ve'yimru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach ve'yishtabach ve'yitpa'ar ve'yitromam ve'yitnaseh. Ve'yithadar, ve'yitale, ve'yithalal, shemei dekudesha, richu. Le'ela min kol birchata ve'shirata, tush bechata ve'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma ve'imru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, ve'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru, amen. Please remain standing. Next, we'll sing Moses' prayer for healing from the book of Numbers. You can find the words in your booklet. The words are Ana elna refana la, and it just keeps repeating. Before we start singing, I invite everyone here to take your right hand and place it on the shoulder of the person next to you. Now, we're ready to bring healing to one another. Let's sing. Ana elna, Ana elna, Ana elna refana la. Time, Ana elna, Ana elna, Ana elna refana la. You may be seated. It's Temple Emmanuel's great honor to invite our next speaker, Town Administrator Steve Mayo, to offer his reflections.
Oseh shalom biromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshevite v'al yamru amen. And hopefully I got this right. But for the English version, may the one who makes peace in the high heavens make peace for us, for all Israel and all who inhabit the earth. Amen. Thank you, Rabbi Hirsch, for inviting me to say a few words today. I'm honored to be here at Sacred Shabbat. From the town of Wakefield, its town council, and its citizens, I bring you our sincere condolences. You must know we are all in solidarity here with you following the horrendous act in Pittsburgh. Love and solidarity here in Wakefield will always conquer such hate. And we are so fortunate as a community to have the welcoming Temple Emmanuel in Wakefield. Every time I drive past this beautiful temple, I remember my parents discussing Shabbat from their growing up years in Boston's West End. The West End of Boston was a community rich in diversity of cultures, religions, nationalities, and races. My father, as a young boy, was often asked to light the gas stove for a Jewish family on his street, celebrating Shabbat's tradition of the devout refraining from such activity. Many languages were spoken in the streets of the West End of Boston. Yiddish was prevalent, and my parents still remember the many Yiddish idioms. There were 2 synagogues in that community. When something as tragic as the event in Pittsburgh occurs, we all look to make sense of the issue. We all look for someone or something to blame. We all look for answers as to why, and solutions to make sure that it never happens again. We find as we search our souls there are no easy answers. I find myself drawing on my passion for history to gain some perspective, to gain some insight. I look for minds that can create an understanding much greater than my own. In my search for understanding this tragic event and the factors contributing to it, I came across a statement attributed to Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson. He writes, "Intolerance lies at the core of evil. Not the intolerance that results from any threat or danger, but intolerance of another being who dares to exist. Intolerance without a cause. It is so deep within us because every human being secretly desires the entire universe to himself. Our only way out is to learn compassion without cause, to care for each other simply because that other exists." Now, one of the great benefits about reading the words of others is that you don't have to accept all they preach. You can pick and choose. Now, I do agree that there is entirely too much intolerance in this world, entirely too much ignorance. But I do not believe that intolerance lies deep within us because every human being desires the entire universe to himself. What a lonely, horrible universe that would be. So my search continued, and as usual, I was drawn to one of my heroes, Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln describes our struggle to eradicate hate and remove intolerance as the battle between the impulses of good and evil found in every man and woman. We all struggle to heed the calling of the better angels of our nature to make our world a better place. To paraphrase author John Meacham, and although it may not seem so today, but throughout history, these better angels have prevailed just often enough to sustain this grand experiment called America. Unfortunately, our fate as a town, as a state, as a nation is still contingent upon whether our better angels can overcome intolerance and hate so we can learn compassion without cause and to care for each other simply because the other exists. Now, I truly believe that the national tone has created an atmosphere which has contributed to this intolerance. Misguided souls on social media post diatribes which represent the antithesis to the calling of our better angels. This problem is not limited to just outside the 01880 zip code. We too in Wakefield have stumbled, particularly back in our own history, the fact that Italian-American Wakefieldians were targeted as anarchists during the Sacco and Vanzetti trial, as well as others being forced to change their religion so they could maintain their jobs. But I do believe that there have been many, many instances here at home where our better angels have prevailed. Our better angels prevail when the local chapters of our two major political parties declare all local elections as nonpartisan and join together in public events to raise money for the food pantry. Our better angels prevail when your child comes home from school and declares that he or she learned about the importance of being an advocate and not a bystander during incidents of bullying. Our better angels prevail when a hate group comes to Wakefield, as it did a few years ago, and our answer is to hold a meeting of love and compassion across town. Our better angels prevail when the town council creates a human rights commission, who we heard from this evening. Our better angels prevail when the town council creates an emergency fund to help those who suffer a tragedy. Our better angels prevail when our public spaces and our hearts can accommodate Santa's village, a live nativity scene, and a menorah on our common. And our better angels prevail when we come together during moments like this to try to make sense of what has happened in the world and to move on united in the cause to make a better tomorrow. So again, in the words of Rabbi Schneerson, and these I totally agree with, if you see what needs to be repaired and know how to repair it, then you have found a piece of the world that God has left for you to complete. Let's all summon our better angels and get to work. Thank you again for allowing me to share a few thoughts with you this evening. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.
Chief Rick Smith is our Chief of Police in Wakefield. Chief Smith began his career in 1974 as a summer officer in the town of Oak Bluffs on the summer resort island of Martha's Vineyard. In 1977, he became a full-time officer and transferred to the city of Melrose in 1981. While with the Melrose Police, he worked his way through the ranks to the rank of Chief of Police in 1998. In 2004, Rick was appointed to Chief in the Wakefield Police Department. Chief Smith holds a bachelor's degree from the University of Massachusetts and a master's degree in criminal justice. He also holds certificates in leadership from Harvard and Northeastern. A graduate of the 176th session of the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia, Chief Smith is a past president for the FBI National Academy Associates in New England. He's also a graduate of the National Fire Academy. Chief Smith currently serves on the Massachusetts Chief of Police Executive Committee and is a former member of the IACP Community Policing Committee. In September of 2012, Chief Smith was appointed to the IACP's State Association of Chiefs of Police Committee North Atlantic Regional Chair. In that role, Chief Smith represented all police chiefs from Washington, D.C. to Maine on the national board. As a member of the Regional Consortium of Police Departments in Northeast Massachusetts, NEMLEC, Chief Smith is the second vice president of the Executive Committee, as well as a former member of the nonprofit NEMLEC Foundation. The chief is committed to partnerships and sits as chair for the Middlesex Partnership for Youth. He's also a past board member of the Wakefield Rotary Club. Chief Smith sits on the board of directors of the Boys and Girls Club of Wakefield Stoneham. In October 2015, Chief Smith was elected at the International Conference in Chicago to the position of Vice President at Large for International Association of Chiefs of Police, representing police chiefs from all over the world. On a personal note, in my 2 years here in Wakefield, Chief Smith has been a constant source of support and camaraderie. He was the first town official to welcome me into this community, and his support has been ongoing. He also serves with me on the Wakefield Human Rights Commission and offers his unique wisdom to benefit all of us here in Wakefield. And now he'll share further wisdom.
Thank you, Rabbi. My mother actually wrote that, so well, thank you, Rabbi Hirsch. I appreciate the kind words. But before I begin, let me offer on behalf of the men and women of the Wakefield Police Department and for law enforcement across the country, my sincere condolences to the Jewish community over the cowardly act at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh last Saturday on the 27th of October. There's no room in our hearts and our lives for this kind of hate or for this kind of senseless violence. At the same time, may we all pray for the 11 that were murdered and the 6 that were injured, including 4 Pittsburgh police officers who were injured trying to stop the killing. Thank you for having me tonight, and thank you for putting trust and faith in me to stand before you and talk about not only the worst assault on the Jewish faith in the history of the United States, but the increase of hate, terrorism, and acts of violence against our faith communities. I am humbled to share some insight into how I, as a police professional and as your police chief, sees through the chaos with the hope to ensure peace and safety to the people that we serve. Almost a year ago, on the first night of Hanukkah, I had just stepped off a flight returning from Tel Aviv when I attended the menorah lighting on the Wakefield Common. The first person I saw on that darkened, cold, damp night last December was Rabbi Greg. We had become friends earlier in the year, and during the Jewish high holidays, when I went to the synagogue to introduce myself and make the rabbi aware of the commitment the Wakefield Police Department has to work hand in hand and ensure the safety of the members and of the synagogue. As you may or may not remember, at that time there was a lot of conversation and threats made against Jewish properties nationwide. In fact, there were over 2,000 threats in 2017. Rabbi Greg, true to form, welcomed me with open arms. And since that day, we have built a partnership not only as friends, but as members with the same hopes and desires within our faith communities. Earlier this week, I attended the Anti-Terrorism Advisory Council and the Joint Terrorism Task Force meeting at MIT's Lincoln Labs over at Hanscom Air Force Base. At the conclusion of the meeting, I decided that tonight I would talk briefly about some of the issues that have been causal in nature to the terror in Pittsburgh, My remarks will be brief, trust me, and certainly in line with the open source media, but should offer insight into why these things happen. And then I would like to talk about how we as a community can heal. Terrorism, foreign or domestic, is just that. It's terror. Hate crimes, whether perpetrated by organized group or the proverbial lone wolf, is just that. It's terror. Although Robert Bowers, age 46, was operating alone, he, in many ways, was radicalized. He demonstrated how hate in his mind and soul allowed him to build legitimacy into his behavior. He was a loner. He watched video. He studied hate. He was exposed to supremacist ideologies. He was well aware of conflict and extremist hate towards America and towards Israel. All of this was a factor to drive him to the conscious decision to wage his own war on the synagogue. Armed with an AR-15 fully automatic rifle and 3 handguns, he commenced on his mission. He used those weapons to assault and kill 11 innocent people, injure another 6. And once again, 4 of those 6 were Pittsburgh police officers who bravely encountered Bowers in an attempt to stop the killing. So people say, why? Why is this happening? The answer is not simple. In fact, the answer is quite complex, if there is an answer. We all know there's an ongoing war on the democracies of the West by certain countries and populations in the Middle East. Israel, as an ally of the United States and the only democracy in the Middle East, is a prime target. Since the State of Israel was founded as a democracy, it has been a target. I witnessed this firsthand while studying the terrorism of the Middle East while in Israel last year. Far from the far north, where Israel, Lebanon, and Syria come together, down to the Gaza Strip, I was exposed to the daily briefings by Israeli intelligence of the Israeli Defense Forces and the Israeli National Police. All of this transcends the United States, as those in our country are exposed to this extremism. In this age of 24-hour news cycles and the availability of information of any kind via the internet, people like Robert Bowers can find support in their hate and rationale for their dangerous and reprehensible behavior. Unfortunately, our current divisive political climate does nothing but fan the flames. So what are we going to do about it? This is where you come in. This is where our community leaders, our faith community leaders, our neighbors, our schools, our social institutions, they all play a role in unifying our communities to stand up against hate, to speak out. Many in this room have heard me speak of the ideologies of Sir Robert Peel, who was the first commissioner of the Met, the London Metropolitan Police Force, in the late 1800s. Sir Robert Peel's principles were many, but the biggest takeaway for me as a police practitioner is what Robert Peel said, that the community is the police and the police is the community. Today, we call it, if you see something, say something. So let's talk briefly about how do we heal. Building community trust is one of the major tenets of this school of thinking. This is one of the International Association of Chiefs of Police initiatives. Our communities need to trust your municipal police. We need to trust our neighbors. We need to trust your leaders. We need to unify. We need to speak out. We need to confront, and yes, we need to condemn. We need to talk to our children. We have to share the facts, and we have to calm fears. We can't win this battle with bombs and bullets on the domestic front, but we can win it by communication, by collaboration, and by education. We need to share, educate, and be open and be honest with one another. We need to be aware and not be afraid to share with authorities what you see and what is not normal and what you think is out of the ordinary. There needs to be a partnership between the community and the police. One of the most amazing partnerships is between law enforcement and the ADL. We work together on a daily basis on issues of hate, racism, and social injustice. Through these partnerships, we are making a difference. In the greater Boston area, your municipal police have an incredible relationship with the ADL. As a result of these relationships, law enforcement and the ADL have developed and continue to develop suggestions on handling hate crimes, threats, and incidents of hate. Education is also the key. We all have bias, and we all have implicit bias. Unfortunately, it's in our psyche. But having said that, we can address these biases, whether implicit or learned. That is through education. We just heard Superintendent Lyons speak, and it is imperative that our communities form an alliance with our schools to address curriculum, to work collaboratively with our educators, and to make the reduction of hate, violence, and bias a priority. Our children are eager to learn, and it's incumbent on us as parents, as clergy, as community leaders, to do our due diligence in removing hate from our culture and the world that we live in. This will not be easy, and it will be a heavy lift. But by working together and teaching our children, we can move forward to help our communities learn, share, and not tolerate any hate of any kind. We also have a duty to report. Reporting via social media may help in community awareness, but police agencies need to know, and we need to be alerted. That way you can help us help you. 60% of reported hate crimes go elsewhere than to the police. And 25% of those who fail to report to police fail to do so because they have mistrust of police. They don't have confidence in their police. In Wakefield, it is my hope that you have the confidence to know that we will take your complaints seriously. We will follow all complaints until we exhaust all the solvability factors. In Massachusetts, we're very fortunate. We have hate crime statutes. We have federal statutes, and we have state statutes. Currently in the United States, all but 4 states have the ability to enforce hate crime violations. There's a song out there by the popular singer, Carrie Underwood. I'm sure she would not be adverse to me borrowing her words from her song, Love Wins. Rabbi, I am not going to sing it, okay? And let that guitar stay right where it is, okay? So allow me to close with her words. Sometimes it takes a lot of faith to keep believing there will come a day when the tears and the sadness, the pain and the hate, the struggle, this madness will all fade away. I believe you and me are sisters and brothers, and I believe we are made to be here for each other, and we'll never fall if we walk hand in hand. Put a world that seems broken back together again. Yeah, I believe that in the end, love wins. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. For our benediction, Reverend Glenn Mortimer from Wakefield Linfield United Methodist Church.
Friends, as we leave this holy gathering this evening, I ask you to take to your life and to your heart all that you have heard. We so often gather to remember, and our memories are short, and time clouds our intentions to never forget and always remember that we never want to be here for this reason again. A little over a week ago, we gathered from all corners of our community in the Episcopal Church to support and surround with our love and shalom our Baptist brothers and sisters. Today, we gather in this sacred place to offer love and shalom to our Jewish brothers and sisters. for an all too common occurrence in our society. I wanted to remind us as we leave this sacred house of worship that what happened in Pittsburgh happened in the neighborhood of one of our greatest teachers, Fred Rogers. Fred was a Presbyterian minister, but had the tremendous gift to welcome all and teach all about love and grace and shalom. Fred always reminded the children he spoke to through Mr. Rogers' neighborhood that we are all precious and unique, that we are all loved for just being the person we are, and that through Fred and his program, he helped generations to honor humanity in all its hues and manifestations. I ask us tonight to go forth to help others see humanity in all its hues and manifestations. Let us pray. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon you and give you peace, both now and forevermore. Let all the gathered say, Amen.
I'd like to close with a poem by Rabbi Chaim Stern called When Evil Darkens Our World. When evil darkens our world, let us be the bearers of light. When fists are clenched in self-righteous rage, let our hands be open for the sake of peace. When injustice slams doors on the ill, the poor, the old, and the stranger, let us pry the doors open. Where shelter is lacking, let us be builders. Where food and clothing are needed, let us be providers. Where knowledge is denied, let us be champions of learning. When dissent is stifled, let our voices speak truth to power. When the earth and its creatures are threatened, let us be their guardians. When bias, greed, and bigotry erode our country's values, let us proclaim liberty throughout the land. In the places where no one acts like a human being, let us bring courage, let us bring compassion, let us bring humanity. In every Jewish service, we sing Oseh Shalom, actually the opening words of Town Administrator Mayo's remarks, asking the maker of peace to bring peace to us and to the whole world. We'll sing it a few times together. You have the Hebrew words in front of you in your booklet. This is song 4, and we'll start slowly so you can learn the melody. Feel free to hum along or sing Yalalai if the Hebrew words are challenging. Shalom, shalom, bimromav, hu yaseh, shalom. It repeats, say shalom, shalom, bimromav, hu yaseh, shalom. Hu yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imeru amen. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 Ay, ay, lie, 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 lie. Back to the beginning. Oh, say shalom, shalom, bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Oh, say shalom, shalom, bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Hu yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imeru amen. Ya lai la la lai 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 lai. Ya lai 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 lai. Ya lai 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 lai. Ya lai 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 lai. One more time. Oh, say shalom, shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Oh, say shalom, shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Hu yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imeru amen. Comforted by all these incredible speakers tonight and seeing you all here in solidarity, I feel ready to receive the light of Shabbat. May we all bask in the holy light of the Shabbat candles. May we feel the comfort and rest that the Sabbath is meant to bring. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. It seems fitting to conclude with sanctification and the breaking of bread together. I'll say the blessings over wine and bread on everyone's behalf, and then you're welcome to head upstairs and enjoy some food and company. There are 2 stairwells that lead to our upstairs area. And the back stairwell has a chairlift if anyone needs it. Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Please continue to be in community with us. Stand up to anti-Semitism, racism, homophobia, and fear of the other. Come back anytime. Join the Wakefield community again at our Interfaith Community Thanksgiving service on Tuesday, November 20th at Wakefield Linfield United Methodist Church at 7 p.m., November 20th. Thank you all so much for being here. Really, this is an incredibly historic event for Temple Emmanuel. Thank you. Thank you.